In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent.
It's time to recognize that we've come to a turning point. We're threatened with an economic calamity of tremendous proportions, and the old business-as-usual treatment can't save us. Together, we must chart a different course. We must increase productivity. That means making it possible for industry to modernize and make use of the technology which we ourselves invented. That means putting Americans back to work, and that means, above all, bringing government spending back within government revenues, which is the only way, together with increased productivity, that we can reduce and, yes, eliminate inflation.
The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Hello, welcome to Inform America. I apologize for last week. I called it Inform New Hampshire. We did change the name months ago. Freudian slip. I've been doing it for a long time. Anyway, today is October 30th, 2019. And I'd like to ask you to visit the Boston Broadside. Check out their newspaper. I think it's a really good newspaper. Tells the truth. Can't ask for any more. Go to the nationallibertyalliance.org. Sign up. Take their civics course. Get your kids involved in this. It's an incredible education. And I believe, well, check it out on the website. But it's an incredible education dealing with civics, the Constitution, and due process. You can't beat it. You really can't. Check it out. Thirdly, I'd appreciate it if you would support my book, Stand Your Ground. It's named appropriately for what I had to go through years ago, but it's also more appropriate for today in the political situation that's going on. Stand your ground. Don't be pushed around. We're free in this country. Stop pushing back.
We're supposed to be free in this country.
Yes, supposed to be is correct. We're going to talk today about why the American people can't deal with the truth, can't understand the truth, can't accept the truth. Have it any way you want. And by the way, my guest today is, my co-host today, I should say, is Wylene Poliquin. Welcome, Wylene.
Thank you, Richie.
One of the things, if we could have the first document put up, please, I'd like to talk about that. Here's a good example in my mind about the truth, and that is the Second Amendment, Article 2A in the state constitution, which basically says you have the right to protect yourself, your property, your family, and the state. And the state doesn't mean people. The state means the government, the state. Two different words, people and state. The Second Amendment of the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution says very plainly, okay, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, comma. You're talking about the militia. Well, now they switch gears with the comma. The right of the people, doesn't say the right of the militia, it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the supreme law of the land. All 50 states agreed to that.
Right.
With that in mind, if you or the government comes out and says you need a permit to carry a gun, you can't have a bump stock, your gun barrel has to be so much. Show me where it says it in the law. Show me where it says it in the law. Now, I understand probably better than most that the law doesn't exist today. Common law is gone. They've taken it from us. But if you don't read the Constitution, both state and federal, you don't know that. How could you know that? You're worried about, oh, get a permit to carry a gun. I have to have a 16-inch barrel on my gun or I'm breaking the law. Do you? That's not what the law says. And if you look at the Fifth Amendment that we put up underneath that, the very bottom of it, I highlighted and underlined, calling your attention to it. It says, shall not be repugnant or contrary or in opposition to the Constitution. Well, if someone comes out and says you need a permit to carry a gun, is that in opposition to the wording that's there? I say it is. Do you? Because it's your law. It's the people's law. What do you say? It's not up to the interpretation of a judge. Judges in this country are supposed to rule on the letter of the law, not the interpretation. The interpretation is for the people because it's their law. It's called a jury. You don't like it, you nullify the law. Hey, we don't want that law here. It's the way it is. But I want to get into, do you have anything to say on that issue, Wylene? Because I want to get into talking about this whole matter.
Actually, a lot of people have asked me, too, something about regard to this, the right to bear arms. You know how once you're a felon, you've done your time, and then you come out, and you're no longer allowed that right to bear arms.
Really? Where does it say that in the law?
Thank you, because I've actually said that myself. Where in there is there an addendum that says, but, big but, once you've committed a felony, you lose this right. Where do you lose rights too? I thought you only lose privileges.
Well, it is there, but I can bring it around it another way. If you're a convicted felon and you're sentenced to go to prison, and they say, okay, you're going to do 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
You go into that prison and you serve 3 to 5, and you do lose your privileges and your rights while you're in prison.
While you're in prison.
Right. When you come out, you've wiped the slate clean with society.
You served your time.
You've done your time,
Paid
and
your
you've
price.
paid your dues.
Right. But once
Now,
you come out,
the law, well, no, because they're making statutes that say you can't carry a gun if you're a convicted felon. Statutes don't apply to people. They apply to government employees.
right.
But nobody wants to accept Article 5, which we just had up on the screen, which tells you that they can make orders, laws, rules, statutes, ordinances, directions, and instructions for the welfare and benefit of the state, not the people, the state. The people made the law. They ratified this document. So, and it's not, as far as I'm concerned, the law is very clear. And for those of you out there who might be afraid, I can tell you firsthand from having worked in a state prison, most of the people that are in there don't belong there. They're no more dangerous than you and I are. However, they'll come in and say, they want to keep you afraid. Geez, if you let a convicted felon have a gun, he's going to kill people. Well, there's people killing people now and they're not convicted felons. Do you really think that a law is going to change anything? I don't.
Right.
Well, I can say I don't.
Right.
Factually, it doesn't. Well, we had another murder-suicide here in New Hampshire the last couple of days, too. That record's going up for suicides and for murders for the homicide rate. So we're doing good. Keep up the good work. Maybe they'll pass legislation to stop it, to curtail it, because that works so well.
Right, right.
Anyway, sorry to be so cynical, but it really makes me sick, you know. Oh, we're going to appropriate $200,000 or $2 million or whatever, and we're going to fix this and fix. Nothing gets fixed. The only thing that gets fixed is they keep digging into my pocket and taking money out.
And putting them in the
And
CAFR accounts.
I hope everybody is sick of it and they're ready to do something about it. And I'm not talking about revolution, or if I am, it's a quiet one. It's not violent. I'd like to show a video, and we can come back and talk about that too, but I'd like to show a video, and you figure it out for yourself. We'll talk about it when we come back, but you can see for yourself.
Wage slavery, which they regarded as not very different from chattel slavery. In fact, this was such a popular view that it was actually a slogan of the Republican Party, that the only difference between working for a wage and being a slave is that working for a wage is supposedly temporary.
They and their families were as effectively held and immobilized on those farms in the 1890s and into the 1900s as their grandparents had been held as slaves in the same places before the Civil War. Almost all sharecroppers were never able to pay back the debts to the landowners on whose land they worked. They effectively were peons, even though they were not called that at the time.
Freedom is a spectrum, with chattel slaves on the left and slave masters on the right. The foundation of the wage-slave relationship is the economic dependency of the slave on the master. Wage slavery changes the form of compensation from food and shelter to money, which can theoretically be used to purchase food and shelter. Although free in name, most Americans are broke, in debt, live paycheck to paycheck, and couldn't walk away from their jobs without losing their homes. The average worker today works 24% more than a 14th century peasant. In 1 year, this is the equivalent of an additional 2 months of work. Freedom to most Americans is largely an illusion. So how can the working masses win back their time and increase their freedom? Well, they can bargain for better working conditions, but at the end of the day, employers have no incentive to offer this given the increasingly competitive labor market, and it doesn't solve the fundamental master-slave dynamic caused by the economic dependence that's the root cause of all of this. The closest we have to a silver bullet is a universal basic income, an unconditional cash transfer that every citizen gets that provides just enough to pay for basic living expenses. This removes the master-slave dynamic and gives workers the freedom to walk away from their jobs and spend their time how they wish. Sweden doesn't have a basic income, but they're a great example of how a generous safety net can promote greater risk-taking and entrepreneurship. Freedom in name is not the same as freedom in reality. Just ask Frederick Douglass.
You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money.
Being forced to be something like slaves, they argued that if you're say a journeyman, a craftsman, and you sell your product, you're selling what you produced. If you're a wage earner, you're selling yourself, which is deeply offensive.
And I think that splitting hairs about what's slavery, what's involuntary servitude, what's forced labor, is a distracting exercise. The reality is, millions of black people in remote parts of the South could not leave the farms they were being held on. If they did, they were subject to arrest by the sheriff, and if they were arrested, they would then be returned to the very same farms, oftentimes in chains, receiving nothing. That is slavery. That's a form of slavery.
We're going to need to go ahead and move you downstairs into storage B.
No,
We
I was told I could
have some
not.
new people coming in, and we need all the space we can get.
But there's no space.
So if you could just go ahead and pack up your stuff and move it down there,
But no,
that would be terrific.
I was told
Okay.
I could stay.
Well, what'd you think about that? We're slaves. We're debt slaves. As soon as in 1913, when they granted permission to the Federal Reserve to print money and charge the federal government for printing the money, when the federal government could have done it for nothing, tell me about that sweetheart deal someday. That's when we started going downhill. We became debt slaves. Then when they got rid of the gold and the silver that backed it, even though the law says it, Article 1, Section 18, Section 8 of the Federal Constitution says it. It'll be backed by silver and gold. Says it in the state constitution, too. Silver and gold. Where's the silver and gold? Gone. Gave it away. So right now you've got a piece of paper, a Federal Reserve note, and a note is simply a debt instrument to pay a debt. How can you pay a debt with a debt? You can't. So all of this goes on in perpetuity. Yeah, I can't say the word. Forever.
There you go.
Anyway, the point of it is that the system is falling apart. And what they're doing is they're trying to impeach the President of the United States, because if he gets elected next year and he's got that second 4 years to expose what has been going on, just like he's been doing, okay, these people are in trouble. They're going to be tried for treason. They're going to be hanged. They're going to be put in prison. Whatever the punishment is, we'll find out when the time comes. They're trying their damnedest to impeach him. But do you believe that? Like Kennedy says in the video, and we talked about that during the break, there's no bullets flying. There's no declaration of war. And this is in 1961 he was saying this. It's 2019 now. It's gotten much, much worse. The criminals are all over this planet, not just in America. But do you believe it, or do you think that people like me and Wylene and others on whatever show it is are conspiracy nuts?
No,
Because we're not.
People die. People die. There's a list, and I've seen it, that the Clintons, they died.
They took them.
They took them out.
The trail, I call it the Trail of Tears, even though it's not, but that's what it is behind the Clintons.
Seriously, the Clintons took these people out because they did dirty deeds for the Clintons, and then because they were going to get exposed or whatever, the Clintons took them out.
Yeah.
There's over 30 people. Over 30 people.
Just
That's
in Arkansas.
pretty bad.
Just in Arkansas.
That's pretty bad. And these are people that ran our country.
Yeah. Oh, it gets worse. Look at 9/11 with the Bushes and the Dick Cheney. That's even worse. 3,000 people murdered. I can't go into that, but why is it people don't believe? Let's get back on track.
Yeah.
Why does people don't believe what is happening? I don't understand that.
Because they're programmed. This programming has been going on for centuries, and it's the people running our country doing it. They want us to believe this certain way. They don't want us to be in tune like we are.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we're trying to wake everybody else up to believe the truth, right? Okay, but this programming has been going on forever, for centuries. And we're trying to wake everybody up to believe the absolute truth. The government's programming, and that's why everybody's believing all these, and I'm sorry, flat out lies.
Yeah.
Flat out lies. People are in jail.
Well, the only thing that we're trying to do here is to, each week we try to let people know what's going on, or what has gone on in the past, to wake you up to the fact that you're not living in the United States of America, the Republic. it's the United States Incorporated,
Right.
and it's a democracy. It's a corporatocracy, I guess you'd call it, because corporations, corporations, there is no government anymore.
No.
Even your government, so-called government, is a corporation. Corporations run the planet. They run everything. And what do? We have 20 credit cards because we want to further our interest. All we're doing is creating more debt. They love it because they keep printing money and they keep taking your interest payments.
Yep.
Why do you do that to yourself? Cut up your credit cards, everyone, throw them away.
I'm guilty of it too. I have credit cards.
I don't have any, and
Yep,
I won't
I
have
do.
any. They can
I
go
do.
to hell. If I need to buy something, I'll buy it. And if I can't afford it, I'll do it out.
Yep.
I don't have to. It ain't that important as far as I'm
Eventually,
concerned.
mine will disappear once my life cleans
Well,
up.
everybody though, Wylene, and I was guilty of this at one
Yeah.
time, so I'm not pointing fingers, but
Yeah.
everybody wants stuff.
Yep.
Just buy it. Oh, I got to have it. I got to have this. I got to have that. What do you got to have? You got to have a roof over your head. You got to have food in your belly, clothes on. You need the bare essentials. You don't need stuff. But they want you to think you need stuff. You want to be up with the Joneses so you can put on the dog, oh, Jesus, I look like I got a lot of money. I'm affluent. Yeah, you're up to your eyeballs in debt. If you want that, continue to do it. If you want to correct the problem, get rid of your credit cards.
Yep. Truth.
We don't need a driver's license, for example. Now, before you turn the station, that's a fact. There are case law
Absolutely.
supporting that for, 100 years, 80 years, whatever it is. It goes back a long, long way. Say to the 40s anyway. You don't need a driver's license. But the statutes that they have out there say you do.
Right.
Only it's clear in the law, all right, in case law, like Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. The state can't charge a fee for a license or a permit on a protected right of the people. Yet they do. And they do it at gunpoint because a cop will pull you over and arrest you for not having a driver's license, even though you don't need it.
And charge us habitual offenders and jail and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, well, and extract money because that's what the courts are. They're banks.
Yep.
They're not courts.
Exactly.
There are no courts of record. There are no common law land jurisdiction courts in America.
Largest crime cartel.
Yeah. Well, between the courts and the prisons, it's $2.7 trillion a year in revenue generated. Do you think they want to give that up?
Nope.
How about you? Do you want to give it up because you're paying for it?
I know.
I want to give it up. And I don't give a damn who I put out of work as far as them being criminals. I don't care. I want the criminals behind bars. I don't want them in my back pocket anymore. But people are going to have to listen, and they're going to have to wake up, and they're going to have to do it soon because there are a lot of things going on in the world, and I'm not privy to all of them. I'm only privy to a little bit, probably. I'm just a little guy from nowhere. But at least I'm in tune with what's going on, and I'm trying to wake up my fellow man because you deserve it. You deserve to know what's going on. You deserve to protect yourself and your family. There are things you can do. So pay attention to that. Wylene, you got anything else to say?
No, that was basically, I agree totally. Everybody needs to wake up. We're trying to wake everybody up to read your Bill of Rights. It's right in front of me. Read your Bill of Rights. Read your Bill of Rights. Know your rights. You
Yeah.
do not need a license to drive. You do not need to register your car. And if we all start boycotting all this, if we stop going and getting our licenses, and if we stop registering our cars, if we all stopped doing this, what could they do? Are they going to put us all in jail? Seriously.
Well, you don't need a marriage license either, for example.
Seriously.
Back during the Civil War, they started marriage licenses, and the reason that they started them was they didn't want blacks to intermarry. So they said, let's start giving them marriage licenses. And it worked so well for the government.
They did it for
They
everybody.
said, Jesus, why don't we do that for everyone?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
just what they did. You don't need a marriage license. You ever hear of common law marriage? Everybody was common law marriage
Yep.
at one time.
That's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, you didn't need a license.
Yeah.
You still don't need a license. Find the part in the law, the Constitution's here, where it says that. You need a
Right.
license.
Right.
Licenses and permits are garbage. You don't need a permit for your dog. You don't need a permit for your house. I mean, you do today because they'll force you at gunpoint. But these are the things we're trying to point out to you, is that you need to know this. And if you think, well, I got to pay taxes on my house, real estate taxes. No, you don't. But if you don't pay them, you will get arrested. You will get thrown in jail. They will take your house.
Yep.
Well, if it's your house, how can they take it for not paying taxes? Aren't you paying a mortgage on that house? The answer is no. You don't own the land. They do. You don't pay them a rent for the land, they take it from you. There's no allodial title other than Texas, and it's very limited from what I understand. Anyway, these are the things that we're trying to wake people up to, and it's just I'm not asking anybody, oh, geez, grab your gun and go shoot somebody. Don't do anything.
No, God, no.
Be aware of the fact that the criminals are running your country. Be aware of the fact that you need to protect your family, protect them with food, protect them with, if you're into guns, that's fine, and I don't care one way or another.
Just know that you have the right to have one. That's
Right.
all we're trying to say. You have the right to have one.
Be aware.
Be aware.
That's the only thing. Think of things like we had a blackout back in the 70s on the east coast of the United States, and that created all kinds of problems. How about the blizzard of 78? We were without power.
Oh, my
I'd have
Lord,
been out
yeah.
then without power up here. So there's all types of things that you need to prepare for, even if it's just something like that. And if the government doesn't flip out and we go through a nice, smooth, even transition, that's great. Then all the food you have, you can eat anyway. But stock up a little bit, keep a couple weeks, a month, or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying it's doom and gloom, but what I am saying is you need to protect yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think we blew the second video.
Yeah, I think we blew through it.
Yeah, we can't get that
I think
one.
we're at the end of our 2 minutes.
Way past it, huh? All right, anyway, subscribe to the channel, to Inform America, like Facebook. Check out Stand Your Ground and Stand Your Ground. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Wylene.
Very eloquently written. I need everybody to know that.
Thank you.